Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you. My name is Alexis Goffe, and both as a Macalester alum and the president of JaMinn Link, I am pleased to welcome you to the second annual installation of the JaMinn With Conversation Series. As stated in your program, Kwame Gale, the Prime Minister of the Caribbean Students Association, our co-sponsors, will introduce our guests, Dr. Carolyn Gomes and Susan Goffe. Then we will have our JaMinn session where our guests will have a conversation about a variety of issues. During this segment, we will show a video. As a heads up, the video has a few seconds of graphic imagery that you may find disturbing. Just a few. At the end of the video, we will start collecting your questions for our guests. Raise your hands, and they will be collected for the question and answer section of the program. You can also submit, I love this part, via Twitter, questions by going to twitter.com/JaMinn Link, click on the icon on your far right, choose Mention JaMinn Link, and type your questions in 140 characters or less. Some cell phone providers will have issues. Please allow me to thank all those who have made this moment possible. I'd like to thank first the committee who was responsible for bringing this conversation series to you. They include Andrew Gordon, Andre Moulton, Kristen Ross, Dev Oliver, Susan Brown, Janelle Latour, Alison Peterson, Christina Wong, Adrian Campbell, Natalie Raymond, Kwame Gale, and a massive thank you to Trusha Patel, who, if it wasn't for her never-ending, non-stop dedication, we would really not be sitting here today. A big thank you has to go out to the Caribbean Students Association here at Macalester College for being amazing collaborators on this event. We also have had tremendous cooperation from organizations who are all listed in your programs. And as always, a special big up has to go to Judge Gail Chang-Boer for her amazing effort, time, and continued support for JaMinn and this event. I want to thank each and every one of you for coming to this event. I assume that most people who would take the time and effort to come to an event on a cold and dreary day like this care deeply about the future of Jamaica, understand the importance of defending human rights, and believe that we will begin to see true positive change in our lives, communities, schools, and countries if we focus our attention on what pulls us together than what draws us apart. It's at times like this, as I look at the support we received here today, that I'm reassured that JaMinn Link must be doing something right. JaMinn Link was formed 2 years ago, and with the goal to promote the development and growth of the Jamaican community in Minnesota, and to give those who love Jamaica and care about its future a vehicle to be an agent of change in Jamaica, even though many of us are far away. In our 2 years, we have created the JaMinn Link Fellowship, which your programs have more information on, and the JaMinn With series. The mandate of the JaMinn With series is to educate the Minnesotan community about Jamaicans who are making significant contributions in their fields, both local and global. Given that mandate, let me say how honored I am to have these two women here today who have and continue to be sources of support, insight, and wisdom in my life. Today we spent the morning touring the Juvenile Detention Center in St. Paul, and we had a meeting at the Children's Law Center. And while listening, because I had the role of timekeeper, to the discussions, which were centered around how best to advocate for children who are in state care, I realized a central theme that kept playing out. Everybody, has a role to play. And if everybody carries out this role, then we will start to see real and substantial change for our children. I believe this applies to defending human rights. We all cannot be bystanders. We have to be active participants, and there is a role that each of us can play. We really have more to give than we tend to think. As we will find out in a few moments, and as we saw in the presentation, Jamaica is in a serious situation, and many of the citizens' human rights have and continue to be violated daily. However, it is because of the growing number of courageous, compassionate, and willing individuals that have stood up and said enough is enough, that I believe that justice and human rights will prevail for all. Now let me invite Kwame Gale to introduce you to two such individuals. Thank you, and have a great evening.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the Caribbean Students Association, I would like to welcome you all to Macalester College. This evening, it is indeed a pleasure to have the honor of introducing to you our distinguished guests. Over the past decade, Susan Goffe has become a passionate voice on the issues of the rights of the child, access to information, and police brutality and accountability, to name a few. She was the second chairperson of Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, ending her term in 2006. Just last week, at JFJ's annual general meeting, she was re-elected to the board and has been asked to serve as chairperson again. Mrs. Goffe, we believe that your return as chairperson can only serve to strengthen the human rights movement in Jamaica. Let's congratulate Mrs. Goffe. An English teacher by training and profession, she has taught for over 30 years in both public and private educational institutions, as well as doing private tutoring. She has used her skills as a teacher in the classroom in her advocacy work in Jamaica and also on an international level. In addition to giving numerous presentations in Jamaica, she has represented Jamaicans for Justice at the Inter-American Commission on Human Rights, written numerous articles for local publication, and presented papers on behalf of JFJ at conferences in Northern Ireland and South Africa. Carolyn Gomes is the Executive Director of Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ, a non-profit, non-violent, non-partisan citizens' rights action group, which she helped found and served as the first chairperson. A medical doctor by training, she gave up practice to work with the JFJ. Since that time, she has worked to educate herself, members of JFJ, and the wider community on the importance of the protection of human rights and proper accountability systems for breaches of these rights. Dr. Gomes has participated in a number of local and international activities and seminars and presented extensively in Jamaica and internationally on issues of human rights in Jamaica. She has also written numerous articles and papers on these topics for local and international publication. Her human rights work has received increasing recognition locally and internationally, and she has received several awards, including the 2008 United Nations Human Rights Award and the Order of Jamaica in 2009. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Carolyn Gomes and Susan Goffe to Minnesota and Macalester College.